We haven't had story time in a while, have we? What a treat you're getting today. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, recorded at Olympic Sound Studios, London, September 27th and October 3rd, 1968. The Genesis. The Genesis, not by Genesis, obviously you know who it's by. If you don't know who it's by, what are you doing here? Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You also reveals a close connection between Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. We had an empathy. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. I knew exactly how that was going to shape up. I set the mood with the acoustic guitar and the flamenco-like section, but Robert embraced it. He came up with an incredible plaintive vocal. When you're in a group, you're trying to bring out the best of each member in that moment. We managed to bring something good out of each other. The lyrics describe a breakup. Robert Plant plays the part of a man who remains fond of his lover. I know I'm never gonna leave you, babe, he sings in the fourth verse, and he repeats babe or baby almost 30 times. Good drinking game, that. All the same, he has to go. The law of adventure has become irresistible, much like me.
As long as we keep turning round, I'll never let you go.
Now, for the most part of this song, we've got this repetitive ascending picking pattern. You can use a pick to play it if you like. And that'll be good practice for your picking hand, but I prefer the kind of lighter dynamic touch of using the fingers. I feel like I'm more accurate with my fingers, and I like the variation of tone. Okay? Good. Simply start with an A minor chord shape, and you're going to pick up the A, D, G, and then the high E. And then you're just going to pick the middle four strings the next time up to the B. Then you're going to take your third finger down to the third fret of the low E and put your pinky on the third fret of the B. This gives you an A7 sus4, but with a G in the bass. And you're going to ascend up to the B string from the low E, skipping the A. Second time, take the pinky off so that your index finger is revealed on the first fret of the B. That's now giving you an A-7/G. Now, there's a couple of ways you can play the next chord. I personally like to put my second finger down on the second fret of the low E, the F sharp, or you could use your thumb. So you decide, but I'm going with second finger. Keep your index finger on that first fret of the B, third finger to the second fret of the G, and then pinky on the third fret of the B. You've now got a D5/F sharp. Same picking pattern. And then we take that pinky off to again reveal the first finger on the first fret. Now we've got an F major triad, which I like to play with index, second, third, thumb grabbing the F in the bass. And now for E's here, you can simply slide back a fret, take the index off, to an E. Or you could play that F like this, the same, and then just drop these two down a string, which sets you up for the A minor again. So it's up to you. There's loads of different ways that you can fret these chords. And when you get to my level, you can just fret them any way you like at any given moment. That's what it means to be professional. For the second repeat, there's just a couple of changes. So when we first pick that A minor, you're going to put your pinky on the third fret of the high E, and then pick up to the high E. Second time, you take the pinky off and reveal the open E string. Then as you move the third finger down to the G in the bass, put the pinky back on the 3rd fret of the high E and do the same picking pattern but rooted to the G note. And then the rest of the chords are the same. Here's the verse. Now, the way the verse works, it's 3 repeats of the same thing. And again, it's a little bit different. So the A minor is the same as the one we've just done with the pinky on the high E. But when we move to the G in the bass, the pinky goes back to the B string. And the rest of the chords are the same. So you got that 3 times. On the 4th repeat, you're going to add that G note in on the high E over the first 2 chords. Back to normal. Then the F. But on the E, that last note, you can hit the high open E as opposed to the B. Here's the next section. So I've labeled this as chorus 1. You can call it what you want though. We start with an F6, so that's the F triad with the thumb on the 1st fret of the E on the F, as we had before. Then put the pinky on the 3rd fret of the B string. That's the note D, which is why it's an F6. Pick up to it as normal, and then pick up to it again, but take the pinky off, revealing the 1st fret of the B string. Again, 2 options here. You can slide that back, put the pinky on, so you've now got an E7. Or you can just hop the index and the middle fingers down. I prefer to do that time because it's less of a stretch. I like to relax while I play. So just a couple of repeats there. And then you're going to go back to the same chords from the verse or the intro. However, again, thanks Jimmy, it's another pattern. First time on the A minor, it's twice up to the high E open. Then with the G in the bass, it's up to the high E 3rd fret and then open. And then with the F sharp in the bass, you don't put the pinky on this time, just leave the 1st finger on the 1st fret twice. It's basically like a D7 / F sharp that way. And then you've got your F and your E. Next section. This is where it opens up for the first time and we can momentarily park the finger picking bus. So you start on an A minor and we're going to strum down, down, up, down, down. And then let that 3rd finger train track on the G string all the way up to the 9th fret. Index finger on the 7th fret of the D and then 2nd finger on the 8th fret of the B. Give that a strum. It's a fancy way of playing A minor 7. And of course, mentioning that if you do want to do a slightly simpler version, maybe you're a beginner trying this for the first time, you don't want to slide all the way up to the 7th fret because it's just too ridiculous for you. That's fine. You can just put the pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E, the note G. You get that extra note that you need for the chord to feel like it's moving. Then our next shape is the A minor shape again, but at fret 7 and 6. We get this single strum down and then a crescendo as we bring it up. Bum, 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 bum. Bring in the drama. I've got that down as a D minor add 9. It's a D minor effectively with, it's got an A in the bass, but it's got that E at the top. And again, if you want the tab for any of these things, I've got the chords written above each bar and the shapes, and you can grab that on my Patreon. I've called this next section the bridge, but you can call it whatever you like. There's always one bit, isn't there, with Paige, where you think, why? Why did you make it that difficult for me? Especially that early on in your career, what were you playing at? Starts with an A sus2. So index finger on the 2nd fret of the D, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the G, and pinky on the 5th fret of the B. Pick from the open A up to the B. Then you're going to slide all the way up to that fancy A minor 7. And then we're going to go to that D minor add 9 shape, but put the pinky on the 8th fret. That kind of gives you like a D sus4 with an A in the bass. And then we just come off to that D minor shape. That's not the hard bit. The hard bit is when we now come down to an A minor add 9, which is 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the D, pinky on the 4th fret of the G, index finger on the 1st fret of the B. Now if you want to get to that A minor 7 up here, you can change shape, but you might be more inclined to keep those fingers on, slide the 2nd and pinky up, and then just put the 3rd finger on. You'll sometimes find that in songs, you play the same shape but with a different fingering because it's easier to come out of something or to prep and go into something else. The slide up factor there definitely helps. And then the next two shapes are the same. First time. And then the other times. In this next section, we're going back to some rhythm playing again. If I show you the chords and explain the concept, what's going on, you shouldn't need me to kind of like walk you through it as precisely because it's simpler. But if you do want extra guidance, like I said, I've got it detailed, written out on a PDF on Patreon. You've been warned. Here we go. So, A minor, first shape, and the 2nd and 3rd fingers are going to come off to the open. Okay, that's your first one. Then you're going to move to C/G, so that's your C shape, but put the G in the bass with the 3rd finger and then put the C root note back on with the pinky. And then those two fingers can come off. That's what's giving you the kind of like ba-da-da, ba-da-ba. they can move together as a little unit. Then we're going to a D7, which you would ordinarily play like this, but keep that index finger on, and we're going to pivot.
Pivot! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And put the third and the fourth fingers on, the G and the B strings, and then use this second finger for the F sharp in the bass, and that's the finger that's going to come on and off. You could use the thumb, but I think it's a little bit more messy, so I would recommend using second finger. Then we've got an F major to an E, and what we do there is we split the bar, so it goes half and half. Your last two downstrokes is the chord change to E. All together slow. And then when it kind of goes a little bit more mysterious and repetitive at the end, all you're doing is a full bar of F, a full bar of V. So there's a section here called solo variation. And it kind of steps down using the same chords as the verse, but the higher notes are changing every repeat. If you want to play it exactly like the track, yeah, it's going to take some practice to memorize it. But also, if you understand what's going on, you can play around with it and do your own thing. So here's the first repeat. So you're going to start by going from A minor 7 to A minor 6. So that's pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E, index finger on the 1st fret. Then take your 3rd finger down to the G bass note, leave your index finger on. That's G7 to G6, and you're only picking the top 3 strings here. Now you've got an inversion of a D chord, so that's 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the D, index finger on the 2nd fret of the G, and 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the B. Thumb grabbing that F sharp bass note, pick up to the high E, and then just pick up to the B. And then you've got your F chord, but it's an F major 7 because you're going to pick up to the high E. And then you come back to the E, also picking up to that high E. And the second repeat. Thankfully, this one is a lot easier. Starting on that A minor, we've actually got a different kind of picking pattern here. Pick up to the E, and then come back down to the B. And then just pick the A minor in order. And it's all the chords you already know from the intro and the verse, but without the pinky, so they're just sticking to the lower index finger note. Here's the third repeat. So the A minor 7 to the A minor 6 is the same as the first repeat. But then we go G6 to G7, so swap it round. And then that D inversion with the F sharp in the bass is the same. And this time when we go to F, we put a full F triad on and we just pick up to the B. Same with the E. Fourth repeat. I think on the fourth repeat, Jimmy, I thought, you know what, I've had enough. It's too many notes, even I can't remember it. So it's just the chords as is, no pinky, ascending. Basic. Here's the final section we're going to look at today. So coming out of those big chords, we've got an F. You can brush over that. And then we're going to come to an E7 shape, which is basically your C major shape. The pinky here on the -7, slid up to E. Dramatically rake down with the index finger. Or you pick back to that F. And then you've got a big fat E5 power chord. So I do that by barring my index finger over the 2nd fret of the A and the D. And then I also have it barring the G, okay, on the 2nd fret. You can't hear that at first because the pinky is on the 4th fret of the G. But when you rake down, you're then going to take it off to do some kind of Hispanic hammer-on pull-offs. Or you could be a real fancy pants, strum the chord, and then bring your index finger over to get a stronger hammer-on pull-off. Let's face it, if you're in a pub or a coffee shop, that looks way better. So do that, okay? My orders. Then that fancy little bit right at the end. Time to get your Stretch Armstrong on. Put your 2nd finger on the 9th fret of the low E, 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the G, pinky on the 10th fret of the B. And you're going to pinch with thumb, index and middle 4 times. After that, index finger on the 8th fret of the E and reduce this one by a single fret as well. So that's now 8th fret of the G. And now you could bring those 2 fingers back, but I like to just swap to a bar there. So you take in the 8s down to 7s. And now this is the tricky part. You're going to put your index finger back on the 6th fret, but leave the 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the G. It's just chromatically moving down, okay? And then we've got this really cool little picking pattern to finish on an A minor add 9. That's going to be 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the D, index finger on the 5th fret of the G, and you leave the open B and E. Literally pick up the first 4 middle strings and then substitute that B the 2nd time for the high E. You're just going to rake strum up. And then you can kind of add that little A note in if you want. You could play it on the 10th fret of the B, or maybe if you wanted to leave that B note in, you could slide to the 14th fret of the G. It is on a different instrument, so that last note is just for fun. If you think it ruins the chord, then don't shout about it in the comments. It's optional. I'm not saying you have to put it in. I'm saying if you wanted to do something extra for fun, enjoyment, whack it in there. Some of you probably remember that I touched on this a few months ago when I was showing the first part of it to Gab. She absolutely adores this tune. So we thought we'd make that little fun video about teaching it to her. She's since gone on and learned almost every other part, and she can play it like I'm blown away. That is mad progress. She's doing so well. So we might do a little video update to show you how far she's come since learning that first part. But I hope you enjoyed learning this. Remember, if you did get a little bit lost and you want it kind of laid out, you can grab the tab. It's right here on my Patreon. It's very neat, very organized. Unlike my hair in 24-degree heat. A little bit toasty today. Apologise for the shorts, but could have been worse. At least I've got them on. Didn't fancy cranking up a tube amp, adding to the scorcher that is this room. As you can tell, I've got many lights, all emitting heat. So it's time for me to go and relax in the bath. Too much information. Far too much information. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. You should know this by now. If you're not subscribed, but you've been here like hundreds of times, what are you doing? Leave me a comment. Let me know if I shed any light on this for you, or if I got it completely wrong. I do apologise. You take it easy, and I'll see you soon.
As long as we